When a global sporting event becomes a battleground for political protest, the line between competition and conscience blurs. But here's where it gets controversial. A cycling race in Spain recently became the stage for a fierce showdown between athletes, activists, and a nation accused of perpetrating one of the worst humanitarian crises of our time. And this is the part most people miss. How a single team's presence in the sport can ignite a storm of moral outrage, safety risks, and debates about the ethics of using sports to distract from real-world atrocities. The Vuelta a España, Spain's prestigious 3-week cycling tour, was poised to conclude in Madrid with a routine sprint stage. Instead, the finale collapsed into chaos as thousands of pro-Palestine protesters flooded the streets. They erected barriers, lit flares, and waved Palestinian flags. Confronting riot police in a dramatic replay of the Spanish Civil War's anti-fascist slogan, "No pasarán," they shall not pass. The stage was cancelled, leaving no winner, but the message was clear. The presence of Israel Premier Tech, a cycling team accused of sportswashing Israel's image, had become untenable. Sportswashing, for the uninitiated, is the practice of using sports to distract from or improve a country's international reputation. Critics argue that Israel Premier Tech, despite being privately owned by Canadian-Israeli billionaire Sylvan Adams, is a tool for this very purpose. Adams, a close associate of Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, has framed the team as a corrective to media bias and a counter to the boycott, divestment, and sanctions (DDS) movement. Yet, as UN reports allege Israel's actions in Gaza constitute genocide, and as death tolls in Palestine surpass 64,000, many of them children, the protesters see no distinction between the team and the nation it represents. The backlash was swift. Spain's socialist Prime Minister Pedro Sánchez publicly condemned Israel's actions and praised the protests as a step forward for human rights. Meanwhile, athletes like Jonas Vingegaard, a 3-time Grand Tour winner, acknowledged the protesters' desperation, stating they want a voice. It's horrible what's happening. But not everyone shared this sentiment. Cyclists like Michał Kwiatkowski fumed over the disruption, warning that allowing protests to halt races sets a dangerous precedent. "You can't just pretend nothing is happening," he said. Yet isn't this the very point? For a sport that thrives on public loads and open spaces, disruption has always been part of the game, whether from cows on the Tour of Britain or climate activists halting the Tour de France. The controversy deepens when you consider the team's structure. Israel Premier Tech is privately funded, not state-controlled, which some use to dismiss the protests as unreasonable. But Adams himself has called his role as an ambassador at large for Israel, and his donations to the Israel Defense Forces suggest his priorities align closely with the government. Writers like Hugo Houle admit the team's presence is inherently political. "We're not neutral when we display the Israel logo." To the protesters, this is exactly the problem. They argue that allowing the team to compete is a tacit endorsement of Israel's actions, and they're not stopping until the team is expelled from all competitions. So where does this leave the sport? Barcelona's 2026 Tour de France organizers are already bracing for backlash if the team isn't banned. And as protests grow bolder, the question looms. Is it possible to separate sports from the moral weight of its sponsors? Or are we witnessing the dawn of a new era where athletic events become unavoidable stages for global conflicts? We'd love to hear your take. Do you think sports can remain neutral in the face of such profound human rights issues? Or is this the inevitable next step in the politicization of competition?